Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Now, I wanted to take a quick break from build outlining and discuss the new 2020 skill gems that were revealed today. So, all of them came out today. All the gems that were changed in the Blight League have been revealed. And I just want to go through, I'm not going to go through every single one of them because as I make it, there's something like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 a line, 60. Wow, there's something like 68 of them there. That'd take me too long. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go through a few that particularly excite me. So firstly, Summon Carrion Golem. The numbers on this seem interesting. Golems grant 27 to 41 additional physical damage for non-golem minions. That's a non-trivial amount of flat physical to add. There's a bunch of other good stuff on this. I reckon this is worth trying if you're playing a Necromancer build or a Guardian build, where the Guardians had a little bit of a change that means that there's a few synergies with using minions as well. In either case, I think this is worth trying, but it's going to be something that needs to be experimented with in practice. Cobra Lash. Oh my god, the numbers on this just jump out at me as insane. So let's have a look here. Level 20 version. Attack speed is 120% of base. Effectiveness of added damage 125%. But the key thing is, deals 125.4% of base damage and has a level 16 added chaos effectively, and has native chain, and has 40% chance to poison on hit. This gem single-handedly took me from not interested in running an assassin to keen to seriously think about it. This has so much consolidated in a small package that I feel that it's just begging to be built around. It feels like it might be almost a Cyclone of this league. It's a skill that hits a lot of targets inherently, and it's a skill that doesn't pay a severe price for having such wide screen coverage in terms of its damage output. Its damage output is fine, and it's got a great attack speed. I think this is a really solid looking gem, and I think it's one that will need to be built around. A Withering Step I'll skip. Venom Gyre is the other new skill. This seems interesting, but I think it's maybe outclassed by Cobra Lash. I think Cobra Lash is just mechanically a bit better. Venom Gyre doesn't have any additional damage, even assuming the returning projectile comes to you. It only does a smidgen more damage than Cobra Lash does. The returning projectile is often going to miss, so I just don't quite see this one working. I think it's just outclassed by a similar skill. Cobra Lash having these chains. Chains are just an incredibly powerful mechanic, whether you're building them around them or not. Plague Bearer, all the concerns I had earlier about that still hold. I don't see this being great. I'm open to being proven wrong. Now, in terms of other things, there's the new mines. All the new mines cost 6 mana, and that's a reservation. That's not a mana cost. That's considerable, but it's lower than I thought it might have been. These do quite a lot of damage for a spell that effectively has a cast time of 250 milliseconds. That's how long it takes, I believe, to throw a mine in the new system. And this is something that can be scaled with either Minefield support or the new alternative version of Minefield support. So for that reason, I think all the new mines are interesting and might get there. There's some in Skitterbots. They just look cool. They are 35% reservation, which is going to hurt, but there's an indirect chill and an indirect shock in aura in there. That's pretty strong. Nightblade support. This has, the numbers are here for this skill. 20% increased critical chance is minor, but the key things, you've got plus 1% critical strike chance while elusive, and because supported skills grant elusive on critical strike, any crit build is going to have elusive most of the time. And then there's just that magical support. Elusive from supported skills also grants 99% to critical strike multiplier for skills supported by Nightblade, but that's also affected by the 28% increased effective elusive from supported skills. So that's just so much extra critical strike multiplier that's being added on a gem that is already functioning as a half strength increased critical strikes as well. For this reason, I think Nightblade is going to be used by every build that is a critical strike build is going to at least consider this, although I'm not sure that it's always going to make it. Infernal Legion support, the damage that your minions take is huge, and the damage that they put out with their Righteous Fire aura I don't think is big enough. I'm not impressed with this except as a way to trigger except as a way to cause your minions to explode with minion instability. I'm open to being proven wrong on that, but I think that's the only real use for it. Here we have the supports that instruct your minions to attack different monsters. Their numbers are mediocre. None of them really jump out at me as like having enormous numbers, but they're going to be gems that you're going to use. You're just not going to be, they're not going to be gems that are like, say, Impale support that are just so good that they invalidate any other choice. Swift Assembly support, I need to see how this works in practice. If the 6% chance to throw up to 3 additional traps or mines is independent from the 12% chance to throw 2, then I think this is an amazing support. If it's a case of you have a 6% chance to throw 3, and then you have an additional 6% to throw 2 mines, and then an additional 6% to throw an additional 1, then I don't think that the numbers are there. Yeah, we have charge mines, which doesn't particularly seem to interest me at the moment. We also have minefield support, which I'm just looking for at the moment. It's hiding around here somewhere. Minefield support. Minefield support is interesting in that it gives supported skills 60% less mine throwing speed. So that means that I believe mine throwing speed defaults to 250 milliseconds. So now that's 625 milliseconds, but you're throwing 5 of them at a time. That means that you are doubling your throughput for mines. That's considerable. You're doubling the amount of mines you're putting out. You're increasing, the amount of mines you're putting out per second. You're also increasing the amount of mine auras that are affecting things. I think minefield support is potentially very, very good, but again, it needs to be tested in practice to see how it goes. We have Blast Chain Mine support, which is one of the 2 gems that is replacing the existing remote mine, and it's really hard to say with this. There's this and there's High Impact Mines, which is basically a very similar skill. I need to see these in practice. The mana multiplier being 30% means that they're not going to murder your mana the way that I'd feared they might. In fact, they're going to be quite mild on it. You are still going to have to actually spend that mana, so there's no ways of getting around reservation costs, and so I think that this gem is still going to end up being pretty marginal. There's Mana Leech support, probably the weakest skill gem ever to get nerfed. And in terms of other things that really interest me, Clarity. This was 16.4%, it's now 33%. That's a huge leap. I think it was 16.4, maybe it was 17%. But whatever the case, it's a huge leap in mana regen. And so I think that we might see people using Clarity in order to support their casting habits. In order to support their casting habits, I think that'll be seen a bit more. There's High Impact Mine support. That's the alternative version of Blast Chain Mine support. Again, these look solid, but I need to see them in practice. I think we might just end up using the native mine skills like Pyroclast Mine, which has gone and hidden itself somewhere. That's a red one. Where are you, my little Pyroclast Mine? You're hiding somewhere. Maybe it's not red after all. Or maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm not seeing it. But in any case, these new mine gems are all looking reasonably compelling as options. I think they're worth a try. We'll see how they go in practice. Otherwise, Lightning Arrow and its cousin Ice Shot have been given huge buffs. We knew about that from the development manifesto, the balance manifesto, and the patch notes, and that will be interesting. I think these 2 are going to see a lot more use than they have in the past, as will Split Arrow over here. Split Arrow is a purely mechanical buff, purely numbers buff, but by golly, it's a big one. So those are some of the changes that interest me and that I thought were worthy of commentary. If you've got any comments, definitely leave them below. And also, just one last thing I'll point out is that Veil Cyclone is getting a buff, and it will probably still be terrible. But it does have a much larger range than it used to have. If you got any questions or comments, definitely fire away. Otherwise, hope you have a good one.